Hello, everybody. For this seminar, we're going to go over the significance of journaling. This is our second episode in our four-part series, and I will talk to you about what it means to journal and why is journaling so important. So, continuing from our last discussion, I'm going to start off with Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Obviously, you can see this. This is our 14th book, actually. It started when I was a kid and it is still going. 15 is in the line. So that is obviously a journal, a fictional journal, but a journal nonetheless. So what is journaling? Well, obviously it's autobiographical. We chronicle our life events in a journal and we write about it. We also use our journal to interpret the world in an orderly fashion, and we also set goals and aspirations. So we're going to first take a look at one of the excerpts from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and this one is from the first book, the very, very first book, and the actual very, very first section of the first book. So, Tuesday. Let me prepare my preteen voice. First of all, let me get something straight. This is a journal, not a diary. I know what it says on the cover, but when Mom went out to buy this thing, I specifically told her not to get one that said diary on it.
Great. All I need is for some jerk to catch me carrying this book around and get the wrong idea. The other thing I want to clear up right away is that this was Mom's idea, not mine. But if she thinks I'm going to write down my feelings in here or whatever, she's crazy. So just don't expect me to be all Dear Diary this and Dear Diary that. The only reason I agreed to do this at all was because I figured out later that when I'm rich and famous, I'll have better things to do than answer people's stupid questions all day long. So this book is going to come in handy. So we can already see that Greg Heffley is characterized as a highly intelligent kid because this is supposedly a sixth grader's writing. Jeff Kinney, either he didn't pay attention to that or he did pay attention to that to make for a better story because, you know, a sixth grader's writing is not going to look like this. So what are the different elements of this excerpt? Well, he talks himself into writing the journal, right? It's part of his internal dialogue to say, oh, I'm going to write in this journal. His mom's forced me to. But he also sets goals for himself. One of those is very meta, and his goal is to write the journal all the way through because it would bring benefit if he was rich, right? People would look at it and look at his biography. And he also sets goals as in, like, you know, he wants to be rich and famous. That's another of his goals, if it's not apparent already. So, and he also interprets this world in his paranoid viewpoint. He instantly jumps to the conclusion that, you know, some people, one person will like find this and, you know, make fun of him for it. But yes, this is interpreting his world, and we can already see that in one tiny excerpt. And this isn't even like finish the chapter or the day. Let's move on to someone that's less wimpy. A diary of an actual man. This is Samuel Pepys, and Samuel Pepys was a clerk or an office worker in the 1600s, late 1600s, who managed the finances of, you know, the ports for Britain. And at that time, Britain and the Netherlands were in a war where Dutch ships would attack merchant ships of Britain because, you know, they found the new world and they're going to, you know, have a lot of money involved. That was Netherlands' goal. And although this guy was not a military leader, he was just an office guy, and he had an office with like William Penn and other famous people if you really read into British history. But so here is one of his days in August 15th. Up into the office betimes, where busy, and sat all the morning, vexed with more news of Carcass's proceedings at the council. insomuch as we four, Sir J. Minns, Sir W. Batten, Sir William Penn, and myself did make an appointment to dine with Sir W. Coventry today to discourse it with him. Discuss. Right now, a fun tidbit is that, maybe discuss, the word discussion came out of discourse, which we did by going there as soon as the office was up, and office was up, they got off of work. And there dined, and very merry and very good stories, and after dinner to our discussion about Carcass, and how much we are troubled that we should be brought, as they say we shall, to defend our report before the council board with him, and have a clerk imposed on us. So what happens is their office is responsible for handling merchandise, right? But there's some imbalances in the check accounting, and the council they're going to bring that up to the council. And what they actually do is that they have the Navy involved in this, actually. So he tells us in short that there's no intentions in the Lords of Parliament for the latter, but wholly the contrary, that they do not desire neither to do anything in disrespect to the board, Navy board, that he will endeavor to prevent as he hath done, blah, 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 more legal jargon, and do believe the whole will amount to nothing at the council. It's just a fuss made by Carcass, only what he shall declare in behalf of the king against the office. Blah, blah, blah. I confess that, yet I am troubled to think what a trouble a rogue may without cause give a man. So he's referring to Carcass in this. And we can already see that there's some bitter office rivalry. If Carcass was a carcass, well, yes, he would be very foul indeed. So, Carcass, let's look. Carcass actually turns up corrupt later, and that's why there's an imbalance of accounting at the office, at the clerk's office, and that's why he's called to the Navy board. And it's only until a few years later that it's discovered that Carcass is actually corrupt. And earlier in this journal, Pepys actually likes Carcass as a person, and then he finds out he's a rogue. He is a rogue. He does not like his attitude. He and his coworkers go and dine, which goes very swimmingly. All express their concern about the Navy Council Board reviewing the money going through their office, and he complains about Carcass causing him trouble. Though they'll all be ready with their accounts of what happens at the office for, in order to avoid any conflict of interest. And then he goes to a play and then goes home. We do see basically the same elements as the fictional journal. So that means that there is a standard for writing journals, and there is a standard that we should congratulate Jeff Kinney for identifying that standard and making it essentially very believable in his book. But let's not digress too far. So he has this internal dialogue. He comments on everything in his journal with he vexes me. What trouble a rogue can bring a man unawares, stuff like that. And he compliments the dinner, and he chronicles these events. Goes to office early in the morning, gets off of work, go and dine with Sir Coventry, and then go back to home and watch a play. And then he also expresses uncertainty about the future, which are indicative of aspirations, where they express their concern about the Navy Council Board, and they want to review the money, and they also complain about Carcass. What shall I do? What is going to happen? Though he does, talk it out at the end. So if you had no context about who the heck Sam Pepys was, you would say that he is an office man. Office is uttered along a lot of times in this excerpt, and he is involved in office politics. And this could also happen today. If your parents or if you yourself have been embroiled in an office conflict at work, yes, you will feel these same things, because there is a precedent above that you're supposed to get along with your coworkers, but you don't really get along with your coworkers. And it feels almost like a drama. I think that it is so universal, this office life is captured in The Office, the show, both the British version and the American version. So we can learn a lot of lessons from these two. So Samuel Pepys is an average Joe. He might not be an average person in his income and his position within the government, but he is a Joe nonetheless, and that's what makes him average. He goes through a lot of troubles that you as upper middle class or middle class people may have felt, and he carries all of the same burdens that any person does. Like there are conflicts between him and his coworkers. There are conflicts between him and his friends, and he does have friends, and there are also friends who have gone through a hardship, thick and thin, plotted. If you were in a childhood and if you were a child and you did something with your friends, like throw water balloons at the grumpy old neighbor's house, you would all conspire to give your own accounts as if, I deny everything. We can also learn that Greg Heffley is an average Joe. We are all people and we all go through troubles. Greg Heffley is an average Joe because he is a kid, and we've all been a kid at some point. People who are listening now. And this kid, being a kid, he has to go through the troubles that I've outlined before in the previous seminar, meaning, there's grades to deal with, popularity contests. In his eyes, those are his conflicts. A teacher, parents who are noisy, stuff like that. And so we are all people. I mean, not all troubles are average, but the fact that everyone goes through any trouble makes them people. Journals help internalize some of that struggle and carry some of the weight while keeping order in a chaotic world. So yeah, Samuel Pepys, I'd say if I was embroiled in office politics, and didn't have somewhere to, think about it, manage my time, and, really plan on what I'm going to do next, I'd be very overwhelmed. And I bet that Samuel Pepys knew that too. And that's why he was also writing in his journal. Chaotic world, Greg Heffley, middle school is pretty chaotic. Chaotic world right now. I'm sure it's even more chaotic for the middle schoolers right now. And, what we can do is say, what would I do if I was Sam? Well, I bet a lot of you would probably maybe do the same thing. If you didn't have a supervisor that you could complain to, and if you didn't have solid evidence to go over a carcass, I bet a lot of people would do the same thing. And this is, in this way, journals unite us. Journals, write down our troubles, write down our feelings, and they help organize our thoughts. Just a tiny sticky note can be considered as a journal, to remember things, to chronicle the day's events. And if we didn't have this kind of organization, maybe, we would lack in a few areas. We might not be so successful as Sam Pepys. And a big thing about journals is that it brings self-awareness. You are aware of yourself as a person. You think, therefore you are. If you are aware of yourself, you exist. And that is important to our moral fiber. That is important to being a human. And if you are thinking about what you're doing right now, you can control what you're doing. That's what happens every day. We think about where we want to go. We go to that place, and you are in control of your lives. What journals do is, provide another way for you to organize your thoughts, and control your own life, because it's not as easy to, walk to the gas station. It's not as easy as walking to the gas station if you had multiple things, like multiple politics, multiple dramas going on in your world right then. And you can see this in Greg Heffley's control issues. He always wants to control the situation around him. He always wants to, get into Raleigh's head. When Raleigh, in Roderick Rules, I think, buys another diary, and says, "Hey, we're diary bros," which Greg abhors. he intends to control Rowley's mind, and when Roderick is a jerk to him, he also endeavors to control the situation. And when he is, in the school play, he endeavors to control what role he gets. I think all of us do at some point, but for comedic purposes, Jeff Kinney writes Greg Heffley's character in this way to make him more neurotic and controlling. Pepys also have more control over the state of his working life, right? If he didn't organize his thoughts, if he said, well, maybe I don't know what to do, maybe I'll just sit it out, he might have been implicated in the case against Carcass, and he might have ended in prison too. That's why journaling is so significant, right? We need to process the world, and sometimes it gets way too overwhelming, and we can actually see that, people who take these journals into stride and they actually work towards every day, every night, writing down a little bit, even a little bit of their events, they benefit greatly, or benefit to some extent, to help manage their time. And when we process this world in our time right now, with all with all the violence, with all the sickness going around, I think it's completely valid that you should give it a try. You should give journaling a try. Maybe you're just starting today. You write something down. Write today I played Fortnite, or something like that. Today I walked outside and listened to the trees and the birds. Today I took part in a protest. Today I wrote something. Finished my homework. What should I do? I asked myself. And this structure of writing down what you want to do and then answering it later, that is also a benefit of journaling, and we'll see more of that later. Keep your stress in check. You write down to your diary and journal, I guess, and you let some of that anger out. You vent it, I guess, and it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. It keeps your stress in check, because even if nobody wants to talk to you at the moment, nobody wants to listen to your problems, because honestly, there's not many people who would listen to your problems right then and there, or it's just very inconvenient. Or if it's inconvenient for you, you can just plop down onto your novel and journal and start writing. It also helps to solve some of those problems that can induce those stress. So, Eleanor Roosevelt kept a journal. If you don't know who that is, she is Franklin Delano Roosevelt's wife, First Lady, who played an integral part in World War II. So this is what she says. The Marines and Navy have no special services officers, and here, as always, they have no recreation on PX money. More recreation is needed, however, new things are needed. The building is badly needed for sailors going ashore, as they have no place now to sleep for a night, to write a letter, to play a game. Even more important, I thought, was the fact that a combat air crew dropping in here for a rest had to sleep in cots without mattress or pillow. The men feel, and I am told, that the Red Cross has not done such for them in this particular area. Projectors, Victrolas, all supplies deteriorate faster than in other climates. So at the moment, there are no needles, needles as being important for treatments. Two commanding officers now have spoken to me about the fact that seeing no white woman had the effect of making officers and men forget that certain kinds of relationships with the natives was not desirable, and when it is safe to let women on duty come to these areas, I think it will be a very good thing. There are few Navy nurses, but not enough. So, Eleanor Roosevelt writes a lot about the problems in this situation. There are not enough supplies, there are not enough recreation, and as I would expect, that morale is very important to keeping winning the war, right? If you don't have good soldiers that want to fight for your cause, you will lose the war. Eleanor Roosevelt visits this, and she lists all these problems, and the end, with power of being First Lady, she is able to, continue and find a solution, which is to bring more nurses onto there. And disregarding the politics of the era with her remark about white women, yes, she like puts it down. There are a few Navy nurses, but there are not enough, and that is her solution. While short, she decides upon the general solution to the basic problems. She outlines the state, reflects on the cause of that state, and then she provides a solution. And that's what is important in this version of a journal, is to solve some of the stress-inducing problems. So, journaling brings out the human in us. When we think, therefore we are. We are human, and it allows us to quantify those human experiences. It develops our worldview, recounts each event, and it helps us plan for the future. Journaling is historically significant. It allows us some 2,000 years in the future, someone will come along and maybe read your journal. Though that is unlikely, we still have to put that there. And it's also entertaining. You can have a little chit chat with yourself. You can recount some of the funny things that happened today. You can commentate. You can make snarky jokes that you didn't want to make in the heat of it, but you can save it for your future comedic reference. And if any of you decide to write a book about journaling, Jeff Kinney did that, so maybe you should be you might be very successful in that regard. So thank you all for coming to this seminar, and next time we will get very, very deeper into the effects of journaling and writing, because now we've all said that yes, it's relatable. Why is it relatable? Why is it appealing? Why is it entertaining? Why do we want to? Why is it relaxing on a molecular and brain level, neural level, rather than semantics and philosophy? Because there are roots in that science, but there are also roots, in philosophy too. Thank you. So, see ya.